So this Sikha analyzes the Nusach of Haneiros Halolu that we say after we light the Chanukah licht. We say Haneiros Halolu, we say the whole Nusach, we sing the whole Nusach by Chabad, and the Rebbe is going to be medayik in the exact language that's used to describe what took place on Chanukah. In other words, we know there's two major Nissim that took place on Chanukah. One was the Nes with the Pach HaShemen, that the Shemen lit for 8 days when there was only enough for 1 day. And then there was the Nitzachim of the Milchama. Sometimes the Rebbe speaks about that really the lighting of the menorah is just l'zikaron hanes of the Pach HaShemen, and al hanissim that we say in davening, that we say in Birch Samazon, that is to commemorate the Nes of the Milchama. That's why it says Giborim Yad Chaloshim and so on. And even Hidliku Neiros B'Chatzis Kachecha, the Rebbe explains, is not talking about the menorah; it's talking about other neiros. So in general, it's divided that way. But the truth is, even the neiros we're going to talk about include celebrating the Nitzachim of the Milchama. And in Haneiros Halolu, we're going to show both things. We're going to, by the language used, by the lashon used in Haneiros Halolu, we're going to show both the idea of the Nitzachim of the Milchama and the Nes of the Pach HaShemen, and different categories that they fall into. So he says, Benus Haneiros Halolu matzinu shalosh l'shonos. Haneiros Halolu anu madlikim. For what are we lighting the neiros? For a whole bunch of things. For a lot of things. Al Yeshu'os, ve'al Nissim, ve'al Nifla'os. Those are the things that, because of that, we are lighting the Chanukah licht. V'shuv, b'siyum Haneiros Halolu, chayzrim v'oimrim shalosh l'shonos elu. Aval b'seider acher, according to the Siddur of the Alter Rebbe. Lahoidos or lahala l'shimcha agadol, al nisecha is first, instead of being in second place. Va'al Nifla'os is second instead of being in third place. Va'al Yeshu'os is all the way at the end instead of, in the beginning it says Al Yeshu'os. B'tzarech lahavin ma'u atam l'shinish sidron shel shal shoynos. Base. B'Haneiros Halolu muskarim lo rak nisecha ki im gam Nifla'os v'Yeshu'os. U'muchach mizeh shemitzas hadlachas ner Chanukah. Because just the Nes of Pach HaShemen falls into the category of Nissim. It's not Yeshu'os. Yeshu'os we're going to talk about is, for example, when someone is saved in a war, you use the word Yeshu'os. And even if Loisecha also doesn't really apply by the Nes of Pach HaShemen. So from the fact that we're saying Haneiros Halolu, Anu Madlikim, for what? Al Yeshu'os v'al Nissim v'al Niflaos. From this we know that the lighting of the Chanukah licht is not just about the Nes of the Pach HaShemen. Ki Nes of Pach HaShemen ein begeder Yeshu'os. Al gam l'chol sugi Yeshu'os she'asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'yom mahem b'zman hazeh. Asher nachlokim b'chlalos l'sholish l'shoynos elu k'lakaman. He'll explain what these three different categories are. U'b'zeh gufa b'loshen rabim. It doesn't say Tshu'ah or Yeshua, but it says Yeshu'os. It doesn't say Nes, it says Nissim. It doesn't say Pella, but Nifla'os. Ki amuroy she'mei Chanukah koilim kama v'kama inyana Yeshua mekol asugim. Based on this, is Misyasheves kushya chazaka neisefes b'negea l'zikaron Nes Chanukah. If we were to say that the Nes Chanukah is the Chanukah, the Chanukah candles that we're lighting is only because the Nes of the Pach HaShemen, and Al HaNissim has to do with all the other Nissim. So then there's a problem. You're not mentioning by night the rest of the Nissim. B'nes Purim yeshne chiyuv lahaskiras ha'atzola v'Yeshua maham narasha chulum hein bayoyim v'hein balayla. Chiyuv Mikra Megillah. When do we read the Megillah? So we know Al Pidin, it's not enough to say, I heard the Megillah by night. We have another Chiyuv by day. And it's not enough to rely on the Chiyuv Kriyas and Megillah by day. The mitzvah is to listen to Megillah by day and by night. Ma she'enkin b'Chanukah, b'nitzachen al Yevonim, she'af hu haya nes, v'yeser al kein, nes golui, masarta giborim yad chaloshim, v'rabim yad ma'atim v'chulu. Lahavdum and Nes Purim Shaynister B'Sidrei HaTeva. Over there, we don't say in the Nes of Purim, even though we say about, there was a war and the Yidden defeated their enemies. Nowhere does it say over there, Rabim B'Yad Ma'atim. We don't say that about it. Because the whole idea of the Nes of Purim was a Nes that was Malubish B'Teva. It was hidden B'Teva. Nes Chanukah? No, that was openly. It was Geborim B'Yad Chaloshim. It was Rabim B'Yad Ma'atim. The Netzachim was Mamish and Netzachim L'mayl Ma'ateva. Not like Purim. So Purim, we have a chiyuv to mention it by night and by day. When it comes to the Netzachim of the Milchama, seemingly there's no chiyuv to mention it by night. What do I mean there's no chiyuv? Ein maskirim es hanes ba'layla milvad ba'miris v'al Nissim ba'arvis v'birchs hamazon. V'kivin she'alef tefillas arvis rishus, the way it was first established in the Gemara, and now it's already, we took it upon ourselves as a chiyuv. But originally, in the times of Chazal, Ma'ariv was a rishus. Beis, ein chiyuv lechol pas beleil Chanukah. So therefore, nimtza she'ein chiyuv hechreichi lahaskir es nes netzachim al-mulchama beleil Chanukah. If a person didn't wash by the night of Chanukah, and in times of the Gemara they didn't necessarily daven Ma'ariv, so it can come out that the night of Chanukah, no mention was made of the Nes of Netzachim Milchama. So on Purim, where the Nes of the Netzachim Milchama was a hidden Nes, then we have to read the Megillah by night, and we have to read it by day. On Chanukah, the Nes of the Netzachim Milchama, which is the revealed Nes, there is no chiyuv to mention the Nes of the Netzachim Milchama.
There's a chiyuv to lechol part in the day?
He speaks about that there's a machloikis if a person has to be moises besudas. So therefore, at least sometime during Chanukah he's going to be eating pas, so he's going to be saying Al Nissim. But even if he doesn't, that's only b'sagrayim. The main thing is he's going to end up davening, and in davening he's going to say Al Nissim when he says in Shachris. So he's going to say Al Nissim in Mincha. But by night, not because of the Suda, not because of Ma'ariv, is he going to have a chance to say Al Nissim. That's the main thing. The part about Laila or Yoim is more derech agav. He's just saying that there's no chiyuv to eat dafka by night. Even if you want to tell me there's a chiyuv to eat extra sudas on Chanukah, which is a whole discussion in Poskim, is there a chiyuv to add in sudas on Chanukah? Is there not a chiyuv? But it doesn't have to be dafka by night. I could be mekayim that chiyuv even if it's by day. So it comes out that by night I could go past the whole night without mentioning anything about the Netzachim HaMilchama. Comes the Rebbe and says that based on what we just now are saying about Nisecha, Nifla'os, Yeshu'os, in that is not just the Nes of the Pach Hashemen, but it's also the Nes of the Netzachim HaMilchama, Val Pianal. Moving out over the Pashtus, that look is Ner Chanukah. He's a Karan Loirak L'Nes Pach Hashemen, which is what we say simply. What are we lighting? We're lighting the oil of the menorah to remind us of the Nes that happened with the oil of the menorah in the base of Mikdash. That's simple. Comes Haneiros Halolu and tells us, Haneiros Halolu. Why are we lighting these Chanukah licht? Why are we lighting it? All these things. Yeshu'os, Nissim, Niflaos, which also include the Netzachim Milchama. Ki im gam lechol hanissim l'mei Chanukah. So what does it have to do with lighting Chanukah licht? There is a concept of Shevach v'Hilul through lighting candles. Because you could ask, what are you saying? Haneiros Halolu on the madlikim for the Nitzachon L'Milchama. What does Nitzachon L'Milchama have to do anything with lighting candles? So the point is that even when any Nes, you could celebrate it with lighting candles. That's one of the ways how you could celebrate. Why Dafka in Chanukah? So he says Taka in the footnote, he says now Orah 11, that the reason why on Chanukah we're marking all the miracles, we're commemorating all the miracles with lighting candles, is because the main miracles was Taka with the menorah. But we use that also to commemorate the Nitzachon of the Milchama as well. The Rebbe brings the famous word in the Ha'ara 10, that where we say, and this is also a proof to the idea that candles are used as a sign of celebration. The Rebbe explains in a different sikha that, and I mentioned it before, that Al HaNissim in Shemoneh Esrei, where it says over there, V'hidliku neiros b'chatzros kodshecha, it's not talking about the neiros of the menorah. The menorah was not lit b'chatzros kodshecha. Chatzros kodshecha means in the Azara. That wasn't the place where the menorah was lit. The menorah was lit inside the heichal of the Beis HaMikdash, in the Kodesh. There was the menorah on Dorim, and there was the Shulchan and Tzafon, and the gold Mizbech HaKtoides was middle like a segel. So when it says V'dliku neiros b'chatzros kodshecha, the Rebbe's medayik in a different sikha, it's not talking about the menorah. In Al Nissim, it's talking about just part of celebration. So they lit a lot of candles, they lit a lot of fire all over. And it doesn't even mean just in the Azar, it means all over Yerushalayim, they lit fires, they lit menorahs and so on. So we see again that candles are a way to celebrate any type of celebration, any type of way of Eidah to the Eibishter, we do so with candles. And now based on this, since it's talking about not just the Nes of Chanukah, but it's the Nes of the Pach Hashem, but it's talking about all the Nissim that took place on Chanukah, so it's understood why he uses these three expressions. V'zeu gam hatam l'shinui seder shloish haloshonis shel Haneiros Halolu. Betchila medubar al shloisha sugei ha'atzola v'Yeshuo v'chulu she'asisa la'viseinu b'yomim ha'em zoloshin in Haneiros Halolu. V'lachein ha'seder hu al ha'tshuos v'al ha'nissim v'al Nifla'os ki kach hoya seder ha'murois. On the calendar, what happened first? First happened She'asisa. We're talking about what you did, what Hashem did. First He did for us Yeshu'os, then He did for us Nissim, then He did for us Niflaos. And Masha'enkim b'siyum Haneiros Halolu, Toichen haskara shloisha sugim elum hu yosem ma'orim bonu es hahergish or haregish lahoidos or lahala l'shimcha God. Why are we being moidem shabeach to Hashem? Because of a different seder. V'aseder b'kachu shoynu hasug Nissim hu arishon lo'ir b'adam es inyan ha'edah v'il Hashem la'achra v'asug an Niflaos v'rak le'besoif hasug of Yeshu'os. And I'll just give you the nekuda of that last thing outside before we even learn inside. What excites a person first? Something that's totally out of the ordinary. A nes is something like totally beyond teva. That's the first thing that he starts saying, wow, Baruch Hashem, amazing, it was a nes. A pella is a wonder, but it's not on the level of a nes. And then there's a level of a Yeshua and Hatzolah that's not even a level of a pella, but it's still a Yeshua. So these are different levels of what a person praises Hashem. But then there's the order of the events that happen. Let's see it inside what he's going to talk about. Dalet. V'abir bezeh b'hagdem achiluk b'teichen shebein Yeshu'os Nissim Niflaos. K'she'adam yoytze l'mechama ba'acher she'kechoysav hem be'erech. Two people are at war with each other, but they're the same strength. Al pi asach hakol shel kamus va'echetz yachtov. We're talking about that both kamus-wise, they have the same amount of troops, and also the quality of the troops, the quality of the army, the quality of the weapons are the same. So then, lishaloi, that they're similar. Be'erech l'shaloi, they're similar to his own type of strengths. Nizka gam hu l'Yeshu'os Hashem k'lenatzeach. A person, even in such a case, where it's an even milchama, needs help from the Eibishter. Ki al pi ha'tava pa'amim tzad zeh goiver pa'amim zulasei. Avol nitzachim v'Yeshua elu hem ba'oifen hanira k'inyan tivi. V'loi k'nes shalamayla ma'teva. Ki al pi ha'teva hoya b'yicholtei l'natzeach kishem sha'adavar b'cholos ha'tzad shekenegdei. So it's not a nes, but he needs a Yeshua. That's one thing. That's when you go out to war, when both sides are even. Nes hu Yeshua v'atzola shalamayla m'derech ha'teva. Heipach gidrei oil. Ledug. Nitzachem b'molchama kasher atzad menatzeach. Cholosh harbe yoiser. Oy af shaloi be'erech me'atzad shekenegdei. Kach shebederech ha'teva lo yitachem she'yinatzeach b'molchama. Nitzachem kazeh hu nes l'mayla ma'teva. Nifla'os hem inyonim ha'ma'orim pliya etzel kol re'ehem. Ein hem Nissim gluyim shekein efshel hasbiram kimu'uroi shekodu b'derech ha'teva. There's an expression that Rebbe brings a few times in the Ha'ara. We say in davening, in Shabbos, la'oisei nifla'os gedolos levadoi. There are such types of levels of Pella, of Nifla'os, that's only levadoi, only Hashem recognizes it. Because a Pella is something that the person may not always see right away what happened over here. It looks, there was a fight, there was this, there was that, but he doesn't really realize that behind the scenes it was really a big Pella. ומכל מוקים הם אירועים מיוחדים היוצאים מכלל ההנהגה הרגילה ולכן הם מאורים פליאה. זהו עניין נפלא. He's going to explain as he goes on soon concerning what that was in Nes Chanukah. And first he's going to give an example of Yutas Kislev. The Alter Rebbe wrote a letter about his Geula Yutas Kislev. That was the letter where the Alter Rebbe wrote that when I read the pasuk Pada v'Shalom Yatsasi b'Shalom Hashem Shalom. So over there, the Alter Rebbe writes in that letter, Hiflichulu lasis ba'aretz, that Hashem made a pella in the aretz by getting me out of prison. So it's interesting. He was in prison, and they proved that he was innocent, and they let him go. So b'chetzainius, you could say there wasn't such a big, nes, but it was still a pella. Hagula bitas kislev ba ayidei asarim v'hoysa krucha bekama v'kam ishtadlius v'chulu. As we know, there was all different types of pressure and all different types of things that they were doing to convince the government to let the Alter Rebbe go free. Ubiyachad im zeh loy hoysa min anhagas haragilis klal v'klal kim davar pelle hiflei. In other words, that when it's what we know in these type of governments, when they arrest somebody and they accuse him of treason, it's very, very difficult to get out of their clutches. It's not like in a democracy, you'll take it to court and you'll hire good lawyers and you get out. You're dealing with the Russian Tsar. Any sniff, any whiff of treason, of going against the government, and that's it. And the person is gone. So it was a pelt. Shloisha sugim elu shalatzol v'Yeshu'os Hashem hayu bayom mahem b'mei Chanukah v'ala seder b'tchilat Yeshu'os achar kach Nissim u'lebesoif Niflaos. So he's going to go through the events that occurred on Chanukah and how they fit into these three categories that we just now said. Yeshu'os was first, then what happened was Nissim, and then what happened was Niflaos. Nitzachen achashmonaim hischil oid be'iram moidiim. Makim himatzim shel matisyahu abanav. That was the beginning. The beginning of the rebellion, they didn't go to Yerushalayim, let's say, or to the big cities. They definitely didn't go to Yavan to fight with the Yavanim. They were in their own village, in their own town of Median.
We can understand that Matityahu and Banav were in Yerushalayim, but they ran away to Modi'in. And then they stayed there.
But not in the war. They ran away because of what was going on in Yerushalayim, but they weren't fighting with them. The first time when they fought with the Yevonim was like it says over here, HaYevonim in Medin, Bikshu lahakriv sham davar acher. They want to makriv a chazer on the mizbeach over there. V'chshmanoim amdu kenegdam nitzchum. So there's an expression, what's it? Home turf. When you're on your own home field and you're in Medin and there's not like hundreds of troops over there. So it's easy, it's relatively simple. Haisa bekach Yeshua. Avaloi nes golui, v'loi pele golui. Keep Medim, loi oyu, misper godel sheyevanim, that they were fighting against. Then came the next step. Achar kach nilchamu bnei Yisrael keneged sava godel b'yoysu sheyevanim, t'sholach ante yochos, misparim shel elu haya, godel harbi yoysmu, misparim shel anshe achal mi-Yisrael. V'yiraz nes goldi shel amayl ma'ateva. Masar to giborim biad chaloshim v'riab biad ma'atim b'nei Yisrael nitzchu b'milchama. And also, last year we learned the Sikha that it wasn't just that they defeated the Yevonim, they also had to defeat the Mesyavnim from amongst the Bnei Yisrael itself. So therefore, it wasn't just Bnei Yisrael against the Yevonim, it was Bnei Yisrael against the Yevonim and the Mesyavnim amongst Bnei Yisrael. So that was Rabim biad ma'atim. That was a nes. לאחר ניצחון המלחמה, נכנסו החשמונאים לבית המקדש, וגילו שאין בנמצא שמן טהור להדלוק המנורה. כי היוונים טימו את כל השמנים שבהיכל, עד שמצאו פח אחד של שמן, שהיה מונח בחסם של כהן גדול. מאור הזה, מציאס פח השמן לא היה נס גולי. So they found, yes, the Yevonim were timu kol hashmanim, and they found one. Okay, it's a pele, it's a davar that's ma'orer tmiyah, it's a pliya like I said before, but it wasn't a nest like Rabin biyad ma'atim, like Giborim biyad chaloshim. So the Rebbe says, you could say, no, it was a natural thing. It wasn't even a pele. Doichik efshar aflito in shohaya ze inyan tivi, shayevonim lo yivchinu pach shemen zev lo timuhu, befrat lo das toisves shebehechrach loimer shayemunach bechaisim bekarka. This was the toisves chiddush is that when they found matzu pach echad shel shemen, that was bechaisim shel kohen gadol, it had to be not just tam bechaisim, the toisves and machadish, it had to be inside the karka. Dover built it ragel klal to put oil in the ground. The Rebbe brings in Ha'ara, the derech in the times of the Gemara and the times of the Mishnah was that when it came to money, money was hidden in the ground. You wanted to protect your money from robbers, you hid it in the ground. But oil, you have a pach shemen, you're in the base of Mikdash. What are you doing sticking oil in the ground? It's like a crazy thing. There was a special room in the base of Mikdash that they used to store oil in. Why all of a sudden would there be found a pach shemen in the ground? Moving eifoi, shayivonim lehelo al daitam lechapis b'mokum kazeh. Val pize yumtak menayim ba'avadoy shayiz a shemen torish loitimu al-yivonim beheset. It's lechure like this. It says that the Yivonim not only were not metamet betumas maga, meaning touching the oil, but they also weren't metamet betumas hesed, which means by moving the oil. They knew that they didn't touch it because the jar was sealed. But there's also a type of tumah that's called tumas hesed, where you cause it to move. There, it doesn't make a difference. The chasim b'chesam shel kohen gadol. So how did they know that the Yevonim didn't move it? But because the Hashmonaim dug it up from the ground, that's how they knew that the Yevonim weren't metamet, even betumas hesed. So therefore, the Rebbe wants to say, it's not even a pella. It's not a pliya, because the fact that the Yevonim didn't find it, of course it didn't find it. It was in such a crazy place. That's why it didn't find it. So the Rebbe says, Avol soif kol soif hoya kan dvar pella, Nifla'os. Kol hashmanim nitmai de Yevonim. Upach shemen yichidi zeh, Hayataman bekarka v'nisha shalom belisha nagel by klal. So, I guess what the Rebbe is also trying to say over here is that itself was part of the Pella. Why did it end up in the ground? Who put it there? Who came up with this idea? I think the Rebbe also mentions in a different place that the whole idea of being chasam b'chesam shel kohen gadol, this wasn't the kohen gadol's job. Kohen gadol had a lot of more important things. Maybe the Rebbe doesn't mention it. Maybe it's brought down in the Farshim. What was the kohen gadol, the chasam of the kohen gadol, doing on the Shabbat? You think the kohen gadol, there was so many pachei shemen. There was a whole lishchas hashman. You think the Kohen Gadol went around stamping the hechsher of the badatz of the office of the Kohen Gadol? That's all he had to do in his life. The Kohen Gadol had more important avoidance to do. So the very fact that it was chasam v'chesam shel Kohen Gadol itself doesn't really have that much to do with the Pel over here, but it was still, the whole thing with this Pach Hashem from Aleph ad Tov was very unusual. Like we just now said, why was it in the ground? Why was it hidden away? What? And also, like the other Mefarshim bring down, why was chasam v'chesam shel Kohen Gadol? And then the Rebbe says another thing. Huh?
There is
No, not that Seder. Nisecha.
Okay, but there is no mention about the nest that the Pach Hashem was enough.
Achar kach ir nes noisa. Hidliku amanu shmoina yamim v'chein hayu oid Yeshu'os from Nifla'os. You remember we said at the beginning of the Sikha, he said, it doesn't say al Yeshua val pele val anes. It says Nifla'os secha in Lashon Rabim, Nisecha Lashon Rabim, Yeshu'os Lashon Rabim, because there were many different categories of Nissim and Nifla'os and Yeshu'os. And part of that included also what you were just now saying, the nest of the Pach Hashem lighting for 8 days also.
So this is part of what? Part of the Niflaotecha? Part of Nisecha? Part of Yeshu'otecha? What is it?
Here he's calling it a nes.
Basically it's a nes.
In Ha'ara 27 he says, V'hu ba'omrei Nissim.
So when we say Nisecha, basically we mean them both.
We mean both things.
Matim bad Matim and also
right.
Nes Pach Hashem.
Exactly.
For 8 days.
So Vav Seder Zeh Yeshu'os Nissim and Nifla'os Masim Kasher L'Shoynes Eila Niskaris Lefi Seder Zmanei Amoros by Yomim Ahem. What took place then in those days? Achish Medubar Allah Hoydis Ulahal L'Shimcha Gadol La'acher Zeh Azaya Seder Shoyne. What excites a person first? What makes a person more shaykh to be moidem shabech to the Eibishter? L'choil l'roish esh l'hoidis olahal HaKadosh Baruch Hu ala Nissim sha'koil makirim shem yad Hashem. So therefore, the openness of Rabbim b'yad Ma'atim, or the openness of the Chanukah licht that burns for 8 days instead of 1 day, that's the first thing that he's l'hoidis olahal. Ul'acher mekain oleinu lahazboinen bekam v'kam murois achedim. Ul'hakir bakach shegidram hamiti hu Nifla'os secha. We have to take certain events that superficially, ba'ofen shitchi, they look like they're darkei ateva. But if we think a second, we say, no. It's a pella. And because it's a pella, we recognize Yad Hashem also in this. And that we also have Lahoides or Lahalo. Though when it comes to a pliya, a person can make a mistake, and if he wants to, he could say it's Darkei Ateva. It wasn't Hashem's doing. Vazai, after taking a moment to think about it, on Moedim Mahalim Hashem Gam Aleim. Or the Besoif Boim Adol de Akaram. Shafilu al Yeshu'os secha she'einam Nissim va'afilu loy Nifla'os ki im murois begidrei ateva. Like we said over there, the Milchama of Matisyahu v'Banav v'Moidin, where over there was like an equal battle, if not even a stronger battle. Yesh lahoidos lahal Hashem sharei laHashem ha'Yeshuo. Even the fact that this person is victorious over another person, it's all thanks to Hashem. Hateva atzmai hu lamayla min hateva. We have to realize that even Teva is higher than Teva. Umemela gam Yeshua tzricha la'oirer hayda v'hilul. So now the Rebbe is going to explain this a little bit more according to what Chassidus says about how we're supposed to look at Teva. Teva, we know, there's actually an expression brought down from, I don't remember right now which Rishon says this, that Teva is just a nes that's repeated many times. We think that the sun going up every morning and going down every night, we think that's Teva. But the truth is, why do we call it Teva? Because it's just something that's every single moment. I always like to think to myself, what did the people in the Midbar, especially those that were born in the Midbar or they were very young when they came to the Midbar, what did the man look like to them? By them it was Teva. They were used to 40 years. This is the normal way. How does mommy prepare food? Yeah, she goes out and she brings in the mud and then we have food. That was Teva. Why? Because 40 years you do the same thing day after day after day. That's Teva. That's natural. That's normal. So the Rebbe is going to explain that this is the outlook and this is the Pnimius Adavar, especially when it comes with the way Hashem connects with Yidden, the way Hashem connects with the Jewish people. But in Yisrael, it's Bnei Yisrael, Hashpas, Achayis, He lachatchila mebchinas alakus shalamayla matav. In Chassidus, we explain that there is a lakus that is enclosed in Teva, otherwise known as memala kolalmin, and there is soiviv kolalmin, or even higher, that's beyond nature. The ein zois ella shashpazu mislabeshes belavushal Teva. This relationship that Hashem has with us, that's really beyond Teva, but Hashem disguises it and hides it in Teva. K'loim, nois v'lakach shanhagas ha-Teva b'chlal. Af hi hanagel l'kiz, u'memela v'amitasi l'mayl ma-Teva, k'vi she-Teva misparish v'oilam. Every type of Teva is that way, whether it has to do with a Yid or not, but a Yid has a special relationship with Hashem. And that special relationship with Hashem means that what's by a Yid Teva is l'chatchila l'mayl ma-Teva. Hine eitz li Yisrael. Avza Teva einoi elo levush chitzoyni lanhaga nisis. Shebon noya kadosh baruch hu b'nei Yisrael. That in truth, the way Hashem runs and deals with Yidden, it's different the way He deals with everyone else. And l'chatchila, everything that He does with Yidden is hanhaga nisis. Except sometimes it's visible, the nes, and sometimes Hashem hides that hanhaga nisis in Teva. So l'chatchila, every Yid's connection with Hashem is in the way of l'mayl matav. Umemela, mi sheyesh le'enayim me'irois, eyes that are really open to this. Royas ha'emes shezel l'chatchila inyan nisi. Everything that happens in nature, he sees l'chatchila the nesed. Kach shelevush ha'teva einoi toifes etzloi mokim klal. And the Rebbe speaks about this, I think, also concerning about he speaks about how a Yid is supposed to look about making parnasa. That even though it says that we have a mitzvah to go ahead and go to work, not to sit and wait for Hashem to send us parnasa. We're supposed to go to work. But at the very same time that we're going to work to make a living, that very work, we only have to realize we're doing it l'shem, to be mekayim the mitzvah that Hashem told us, Sheish Yom Tavid. Not because by a Yid the work brings the money. No, Hashem is giving him the money, but Hashem wants that. How am I going to give you the money? I'm going to give it to you when you have the work.
For Jews, like meaning. For Goyim, it's not working the same way that Hashem basically given them the parnasah, but they need to do clear, like I'm trying to understand.
By a Yid, l'chatchila, the Eibishter's way of connecting with Yid is in a way of nes. It's similar, it's a little bit like, it's not bediuk, like the difference that's brought down in Chassidus between Yaakov Avinu and Yosef HaTzadik. says that Yosef was punished to sit 2 extra years in prison. Why? Because he was beteach ba'adam. So everybody asks, but Yaakov Avinu was also beteach ba'adam because he was sending a doirin to Esav and he was preparing himself for war. So what's the difference between them? So it says Yosef was actually in a higher darga than Yaakov, and because he was in a higher darga, he should have gone in such a way that's totally not relying on Teva. So we see there's even amongst Yidden there's differences. The way Yosef is supposed to do things and the way Yaakov is supposed to do things. And then there's a difference between a Goy and a Yid. A Goy doesn't have to look at, even though in truth everything is Mashgacha Pratis every second, but there's no obligation of a Goy to say, I'm just going to work, l'shem the mitzvah of going to work. I once told over the story, it was around Purim time, that there was this chassid, the Rebbe Rashab told him to go vote when the Tsar's regime fell, when they originally had elections in Russia in 1917, the Rebbe Rashab told the chassidim to go vote. And this chassid didn't know anything about voting, knew nothing about it, but the Rebbe Rashab said to go vote. So he went to mikveh, and he put on a gartel. In the same vein is the idea about going to work. I have to look at the work not as, well, the work is going to bring me the money. The Rebbe says that a Yid looks at the work, this is a mitzvah neibishter. He told me he wants me to go to work so I should be able to have money. Fine. So I put it on a gartel and then I go to work. It's not that the work is going to make me the money. The money is because the Yeshuo wants to send me the money, but he only wants to send me the money if I go to work. It's a peludik of Maimer Chazal. You see this open in this Maimer Chazal. You can sometimes think this is Chassidus, but here you look in this Maimer Chazal and you see this an amazing thing.
It's a Mishnah.
It's a Gemara explaining the names of the Sdarim. Seder Zroim is because it says V'hoya emunah itecha. Emunah goes on Zroim, on Seder Zroim, and itecha is Zmanim that goes on Seder Zmanim. So the Chazal learned it out that a person that plants, he plants a field. He's growing wheat. He's growing crops. He's growing anything. He's planting. It says, Mamin b'chei elamim v'zereah. What does that mean, Mamin b'chei elamim v'zereah? Isn't it a normal thing? Chukei ateva shekava HaKadosh Baruch Hu zera v'katzer gaimer lo yishbaisu einam hasiba hamitis l'zriyaseh shel Yehudi. Hasiba hamitis l'tzmicha shebeglalahu zereah hi yoysei mamin b'chei elamim. It's not because I believe this tvu is going to give me the parnasa, or it's I believe that when I plant, things are going to grow. It's totally Hashem's doing. But the Eibusha wants me I should plant, so I'm planting. Before b'chsidus, shedavke lamata mata b'yoyser misgalda misbata hagavoy gavoy b'yoyser. Val derech zeu gam be'inyan hanissim. Hanissim hamluboshim beteva nailim b'shorshim yoyser ma'anissim hagluyim. A lot of times in a lot of Mamorim and Sichos where the Rebbe speaks about Purim, that Purim was Nes HaMalubish B'Teva, the Rebbe says that it's such a high level because an openness, what is Hashem doing? He's just breaking nature. It's like saying, I'm going to play a game of chess, but then when I see that I'm losing, I'm going to say, listen, it's my chess set, so I can do whatever rules I decide. The pieces belong to me. You don't want? It's my chess set. You can't tell me what to do. That's like Nissim Shalamayim Mateva. The Eibusha breaks the rules. A nest that's Malubish and Teva, or maybe even Teva itself, is playing by the rules and still winning. So it's really the idea of nest that's Malubish B'Teva, like it was the case of Purim, or Teva itself, since it's lower than a openness, really has a higher shorish because kol ha'gavoya b'yoyser yored lamata mata yoyser. Nissim giluyim nimshachim b'chinas hagiluyim. Open nissim, they come from a level of Hashem's revealed powers. V'hei mugbolim b'kav shel gilui. Hanes muchrach leirois begilui. That's what a miracle is. It's something that's visible. Nissim am lebashim beteva nimshachim naila yoser megilui velachem lebashim nissim mele belavushateva, because they come from such an oir that is, like it says in davening, we say yoitzer oir boire choshech. Bria is choshech, and Yitzira is oir. Yitzira is a lower world than Bria. We see choshech is a level of oir that's so high that it's dark to us. That's Nissim am lebashim beteva. A nest that's enclosed in nature comes in a place that's too high to be revealed. Nifla'os it's nes hamalubish beteva. That's a pliya. It makes a person wonder. Until when you actually think into it, like for example by Purim. By Purim, initially, you might not have seen it being a nes, but if you start looking at the whole story from the beginning to the end, that's part of the reason, Balabatish, why we read the Megillah all the way from the beginning to the end. Seemingly, the main miracle is there was a Gzeira against the Eden, and we won. But the whole point of reading the whole Megillah from the beginning to the end and putting the whole story together, all of a sudden you see where all the puzzle pieces were moved around to be able to make this nes occur. So when you think into it, then you could realize that even a nes hamalubish b'teva is also a nes. Moving from a koyrei ba'oir shina kol panim begeder gilui, it still has to do with a level of revelation. And revelation, according to Chassidus, is always a lower level. Hashem's essence is beyond any type of revelation whatsoever. Da'afke inyan hatshuis, hamurois hamalubashim b'teva gufa. Nimshach ma'atzmusi yizbarach she'ena begeder gilui klal. Umemela ba Yeshuo shalamayla ma'ateva haba ma'akadosh baruch hu ba'atzmai ba'oifen hanire ki'ilu zo yanhage b'derech hateva mamish. It's because it's coming from such a high place, therefore it looks totally like a natural thing. V'zeu gam ha'seder b'shloish sinyonim elu lahoides ulahalo l'shimcha agadol al nisecha v'al nifleisecha v'yeshuosecha. In other words, what the Rebbe is saying now is that he's going milmato l'maylo. Beforehand, it comes out, oh, Nes is the highest thing, right? Then Nifla'os, also you have to praise Hashem. Yeshu'os is the least of it. Now the way the Rebbe teaches us, Nes, since it's a revealed aspect of Hashem, that's not the highest. The highest is Yeshu'os. Even Teva, that's where Hashem's very essence is found. But betchila b'haidav ahilul al gilui shemehem nimshachim nisech. Achar kach on a higher level ala oir shalamayla megili v'al nifleisecha. Ola b'sayif haidav ahilul shimcha gadol beikir ayidei yeshuosecha. Where do you see the greatness of the Eibishter? The highest greatness is that level of Yeshuosecha, that level which is nature itself.